What'll happen in the next half hour?
I wanted to be in Quatermass because, well, there was a few reasons really. I mean, I knew what Quatermass sort of stood for in terms of the legacy of science fiction on television and even drama on television. I think it changed things for the better. It was, I think, one of the most ambitious things of its time, and it changed the way that television drama was viewed, and certainly the way that television science fiction was viewed. So I wanted to be part of that, and also there was this extraordinary idea of doing it live, which is not something that happens anymore. But obviously, it's the way that television used to be. It's possibly more akin to theatre than working on screen is nowadays. And I was just interested in being part of that and trying that out and being part of the Quatermass experiment really, to see if that could work, if that's something that we could pull off nowadays. I knew it would be terrifying, and I knew it would be challenging, and that just seemed like something that was too good to miss, really.
I took a decision early on to make Patterson a northerner, like me, because we were talking initially about getting away from the slightly stilted 50s-ness of them all being very posh, and I thought it was quite an interesting way to go. And it seemed to me early on to make some of those more stiff upper lip lines slightly more sable. And then Adrian Bauer came into rehearsals extremely northern, and then Paul, his boss, was very northern, and it sort of lost its edge a bit.
He's terribly good in it, I think. I think he's very good as Patterson. And nice to hear him being northern as well, because he is northern, you know. He's not a posh bloke in a frock coat, much as he'd have us all believe he is. He actually comes from up north, where the poor people live.
David Tennant, you know, when we were rehearsing in the studio, actually getting ready for the big performance, as it were, and we're doing this stuff in bed, and he's supposed to be, you know, messing with my tubes or little wires that are stuck on me for Caroon, and he was getting these phone calls, and I said, you know, what's your phone? You know, why have you got your phone on? And I heard this little conversation. I went, what's going on? You know, what's happening to you? And he's gone, oh, you'll find out soon enough. And of course, the next day it comes out like he's been offered Doctor Who, and he's the new Doctor Who, and you know the other geezer's like jacked it in, and he's going to do it, and so that was all going off as well.
At the end of a rehearsal, we had mics in our hair, and he said, "We've got to get demiked. I've got to tell you something." I thought something had gone terribly wrong with the production, and he said, "Oh, Chris isn't coming back to Doctor Who next year." I said, "Oh God, really?" He said, "Yeah, and they've asked me." And it was like, oh my God. It's, I mean, as long as we've known each other, we've talked about how we'd play the Doctor. It's our dream come true. So he was extremely sweet. I think he was quite nervous about telling me, somehow as if I'd actually try and kill him and take his TARDIS off him.
I actually missed the first 3 days of rehearsal. I got ill. I had flu, like proper flu, which is the first time I've ever had it. I've had colds before and described them as flu. But I now realise that this time I had the flu. I was really, really ill, so I missed the first 3 days of rehearsal, and thought, I've got to get in there. We've got 3 weeks to rehearse this thing, which then has to go live. If I miss any more, I'm not going to be able to. They're going to have to replace me. So I struggled into rehearsals on day 4, still pretty poorly. Struggled down to the American church on Tottenham Court Road, where we were all trying to put it together. Still feeling fairly deathly. There's a bunch of promotional photos that were taken on that day, my first day there, in which I look positively anorexic because I've not been able to eat anything for the past week. But I was determined to get there because I didn't want to be replaced. The sort of second stage, I guess, was to do with getting it on its feet and literally just blocking it through, making sure that we felt comfortable with what we were doing, that the scenes made sense. Emotionally and physically, and then the final aspect of that was when Trevor and the technical team came in and started making sure that we could film it. I suppose I had the same sense of occasion as a first night in a theatre, and that same sense is when you go till you finish, and there's no going back. But obviously, it's not the same because it was to cameras, and it was a one-shot deal. We didn't have to go back the next night and do it again. I'll always remember doing scenes with Indira Varma and just laughing so hard I was in tears, which is always fun and naughty, and you shouldn't really do it. But so I suppose I'll remember that. I'll remember the sense of getting through it, when we finished, it really felt like we'd won a war. Pathetically, we all felt like we'd achieved something extraordinary, and it was just a very happy time, and it was an extraordinary time, and probably unlike anything I will ever do again. I watched it back the morning after. Mark Gatiss and I actually watched it together. And it was a very odd experience, but surprisingly smooth, you know, something that had felt like we were literally running from pillar to post, because we never saw the feed. We never were quite aware of how it was all looking, of how it was all adding up. And because of the high definition tape that they used and the grading that they could, because they could grade it live as well, I think it looked rather posh. I think we were rather taken with it. And it was very smooth, and it all went so kind of seamlessly. In the couple of the moments when it did go slightly wrong, even the next day, we were literally on the edge of the sofa, kind of, no, come on, hold it together, you can do it. And this was after the event. I mean, I think if I'd been watching it live, it might have killed me. I think I'd have had a heart attack, just sort of empathizing with these people who were trying to get through this.
I heard a rumour that Doctor Who might try a live episode.
I don't know if it'll ever happen. But it has been talked about, and I think the fact that Quatermass exists and has been done has perhaps encouraged the thought. I don't know how we would do it, or if it will ever materialise, but it's been mentioned, and it is kind of in the works. It would be thrilling, like this was thrilling, and it would be terrifying, like this was terrifying. I don't know. I suppose the fact that this was on BBC 4 to maybe 500,000 people was bad enough. The thought of it going out on BBC 1 to 7.5 million might be, you know, it might be more than my body could take. I might empty my insides and collapse of the fear of it all. But I don't know, it would be a challenge. Let's wait and see.